up to the stage to introduce our speaker. Stacy is with Lackawanna College.
Good morning. You can all hear me good, right? Okay, good. It's my pleasure to introduce Kayla Record. Kayla Record is a passionate advocate about youth development, college access, and community empowerment. Formerly a partner and college planning specialist at Seed Planning Group, Record also served as vice president of Seeds of Hope, a nonprofit organization committed to financial literacy and educational equity. In her 6 years in this role, she helped design and deliver impactful college prep programming, community workshops, and financial education initiatives that reached hundreds of families across the region. Record now serves as a youth career advisor with PA CareerLink, where she works directly with high school students and out-of-school youth to explore career pathways, access resources, and build workforce readiness. In addition, she runs her own consulting practice, There Is No Box, offering facilitation services, speaking engagements, and custom-designed college planning programs. With a background in higher education, leadership development, and organizational design, Record brings more than 2 decades of experience to her work helping students, schools, nonprofits, and businesses create real-world solutions. She is the founder and host of the Cutthroat College Planning Podcast and is nationally recognized for her ability to turn complex topics into engaging, action-oriented learning experiences. Record is a prolific speaker, delivering more than 100 presentations on college prep, leadership, and turning failures into successes. She hosts a national podcast for parents, helping them navigate college decision-making, and making a positive impact in education and her community. Record received her bachelor's degree from Stevenson University and holds 2 prestigious graduate certifications from Harvard University. It is my pleasure to introduce Kayla Record.
Thank you so much. All right, everybody can hear me? Thank you. So, based on my intro, I do things very unconventional, which is probably why I work with a lot of high schoolers, but I also work with a lot of people from all over the different industries, and I bring them together to solve complex problems in quick, weird ways. I'm also known as kind of the odd one sometimes by my coworkers because I do things very unconventionally. I believe that we learn the best when we play, we laugh, and that's how we grow. So, to get us moving mentally and warming up for a second, I'm gonna have you guys collectively as a team take 3 minutes, and you have to accomplish one task with me. So what I'm gonna do is go up on the stage, and I'm going to put my coat, like such, on the chair. So your goal is to pretend at this point, I am someone that just came in. I just flew in the middle of February, and I am from a country that has never seen snow. But I'm flying into Syracuse, and you are picking me up in February. This is how I'm dressed. This is obviously going to be an awesome outfit to walk outside in February in Syracuse, right? Totally prepared. Yes, got it. Okay, so you know, as all now being experts in this area, that I'm going to need at least a coat. I am going to take and say nothing. And your goal is to have 3 minutes to shout out or figure out as a team how you are going to give me instructions to put this on. Keep in mind, I don't know what a coat is and I've never seen or worn one before. And the goal, 3 minutes, starts now. What do I do? Pick up what?
cold here. So in Northeast PA, do me a favor. Put this arm in here. Yep. Leave it right there, just like that. All right. Put your other arm over this one. Can I hold this? Put your right arm. Go ahead. Go. Just keep going. Put your arms back down. Back down. Back down. Right out. There you go. How you feel? Do you feel a little bit warmer?
I think I do. Good job. Nice job. Thank you so much. So sometimes when I make it really challenging, I'll say nobody can come up and touch. And next time, you got me on that one. That was good. But can you see quickly how hard it was to communicate the steps when I'm not understanding, right? You could be shouting at me for 10 minutes, and I've actually done this with teens, I've done it with adults, and sometimes I'll say, like, let's see how quick you can do this. Sometimes it can take 20 minutes because they'll say flip it inside out, and I'll do so, right? How often does this apply? And this idea of communicating this way, how often have you found that this is actually applied to you in work or in your house or with your friends and your colleagues, right? Especially in a meeting. How many times have you said, wait a minute, I am saying something, I'm communicating, I'm telling you what I need, I'm telling you what I want, I'm telling you what's important. You're just not getting it. Why? Why are you not getting it, right? So next time you're in that situation, I'm going to give you some tools now to help with that. But I also want you to, if you remember nothing else, just remember the coat and think about it, because these tools will help you connect, and it'll give you a sense of a little bit more of a skill set quickly to be able to navigate those difficult conversations or those times where you're just saying stuff and nobody is listening the right way, or they're flipping it around on you, right? And sometimes you just physically have to get up and show them and take initiative. Okay. Let me go through here. That's me. Hi. All right. So, as you noticed, I don't do things normal, right? One of my former professors, Bernie Brown, I had the honor of meeting her and taking 2 of her classes. And she's an esteemed author and goes around the world and travels, and she talks about things that everybody hates to hear about, which is like vulnerability, which is a really bad word to people. Like, it makes them all cringe when they don't realize really what it is. So I want to teach you a quick trick on how to read people's minds and getting back to how to communicate to people quickly in a room, especially when you're sitting in, say, a room like this. I'm going to teach you 3 quick, simple ways to be able to read your minds. You're probably thinking, yeah, right. See, I already read your mind. So here's what I'm going to do. I am going to just look at my room first and see. Just right now, I can already tell I have 20% of people in this room that fall into one category easily. So what I'm going to do is I want you to think about a communication that you have had, a conversation you have had. It could be an email, it could be a call, it could be a text message or something, all right? And I want you to think about what were the words you used. Because right now, there's 3 groups. There's 3 categories of people. First, we have our lookers. And let's see, our lookers are the ones that you will notice when you survey a room. They're very visually put together. And it doesn't have anything to do with their physical look. It means the attire that they've put themselves into. And this is a form of profiling, but it is also a very good tool. And it's a very specific tool. Our lookers are the people, when you look around, they typically have more lines on their foreheads. I do. If you want to know the secret, I do. called makeup. So we have lines because we look up to remember. We're lookers. When we look, we use words like, I see that you're paying attention. I did notice that you have really great eye contact. Thank you for watching and paying attention. Did you see and hear the words I'm using? Looking, I see, I notice. All of these are sight words. These sight words, when you think back to that conversation that you had, if you are someone that commonly refers to yourself as like, oh, I see that. I see what you're doing. I love to look at things that are beautiful. You're using words that refer to looking, you are a looker. Or if you're like me and you are always looking for some good makeup to cover up those lines, it's a good hint too. But second group, so we have our lookers, right? My second one, I have my listeners. Now, our listeners will be people that will be dressed in not a formal business suits. Typically, when you go into a normal room somewhere, they'll be dressed nice, but they won't be dressed always sitting just comfortably more. They're not going to be sitting perfect. They're not going to be like this, right? They are going to be someone that will not always be making eye contact and watching. They might be looking down. A lot of times you'll notice their shoulders up because they typically wear their attention here because there's someone that's going down. They're remembering. We remember when we would look down. So looking for something like that, you're going to notice people that are listeners are looking down more because they're listening. They're not getting distracted visually. They want to hear you. And so they're going to say things like, I hear what you're saying. I hear. I heard. I understand. Those are the kind of words that you're going to be looking and listening for, right? What are some other things that might be used for words for hearing, right? I thought I heard that. Or could you repeat yourself, please? I didn't catch it, right? That is my second group. My third group. These are the touchers. Ha! Right? Exactly. It's okay to laugh. I told you, I'm unconventional. So, this does not mean that this is the person that is running around touching everybody, right? However, if you're like I am, I come from a Greek family, and my big fat Greek wedding, that movie, that is true. We all run up and we give hugs. So, these are the people that like to give hugs. These are the people that like to give handshakes. These are the people that are the nail tappers on the table, the pen clickers, the always moving their hands, right? The ones that can't hold things still because I have to touch things, right? That kind of thing. So this type of person is going to be somebody that's going to say, let's look into it. Let's get into it. Let's dig into it. I want to work on this. I want to get a grasp. They're going to use words that physically resemble touching something because that's the part of the brain that connects the most to them. So why the heck would I teach you this? So the reason it's important is most common, and if you are like I am, you have at some point found yourself in a room or a company or a business. I was coming from a financial planning firm, an industry where it is dominated in a male gender, very specific type mindset, right? They have very unique skill sets. So it was important for me because when I need to connect, or I need to connect with my students, or I need to connect with other people, I want to know, and I'm paying attention to those tiny little signs in the back of my mind so that I can see and I can use words that they're going to pay attention to, that they're going to hear, that they're going to be able to physically touch or see or do. And that is how I use language that's going to connect with each of the people and each of the participants or the person or people that are in my teams and in my rooms. And it also helps me by knowing which one I am so that I can kind of adjust my language or the tone that I'm using Or be mindful, if I'm not a toucher and I know that I am in a room of Greeks or a room of people that are, I'm going to put my hand out just to keep that boundary. If I don't want to be hugged, but I know that that's important, that's the way that person connects, then I have their attention. And once you have their attention, then they can listen to you, and they will. But it answers that question. So many of us wonder, why do they just not hear me? Why are they not listening? Why didn't they give me eye contact? Don't I deserve the eye contact? Right? Oh, other way. See, I knew I would mess this one up. This is why I should not touch things. I should be going back to my comfort zone, huh? So, on here, I want to talk about overcoming self-doubt. As a business leader, business starter, and anything else that I have endeavored over my life, I've had to overcome self-doubt. And for anyone that would like to know, that is actually me. And that was when I hit 16 feet and 3 inches. And I was allowed to call that my mark because I had to do it 3 times straight. I am 5'3", flat-footed, which is why I wear heels. And so I can reach the second shelf of any cabinet in my kitchen. I was told my freshman year of high school, as a female, that in a school of 2,000 kids, the coach, I said I wanted to pole vault, and he said, that's because you think the guys are hot. And I said, I cannot dispute that. However, I still want to pole vault. And the coach looked at me and he laughed and he said, good luck. And I was like, well, aren't you going to coach me? And he said, nope, because you're not serious. I just looked at him and I was like, well, obviously I'm having a serious conversation. So yes, I'm clearly serious, right? And so he said, here, you'll get my attention, come back to me when you clear 6 feet, which is what you would actually need to be able to qualify in the year 03 when I started, to be able to make states. You had to hit 6 feet. And so until then, I had no coach. And so I had looked at some of the juniors and seniors guys that were doing it, because I was the only female at the time on the team. And I told them that if they would leave the mats out for me after practice and not tell anyone, I would tutor them. And I would help them with their classwork and in their science homework and their English homework. So I had 2 guys, and I pretty much was able to do that. But what I didn't realize is it's actually dangerous to teach yourself to pole vault. And it isn't as easy as I thought. So I spent 9 months every day out, anywhere from 2 to 4 hours a night, teaching myself, which was a lot of casts and bills and stitches and a lot of injuries, because there's a lot of technique and strength and balance and skill that I lacked all of. So, but what did I do at month 9? At month 9, I walked up to the coach when I cleared 6.5 feet, because 6 feet wasn't good enough for me at that point. I had proven myself into my mind, I did. I walked up, I told him, and I said, watch. And I cleared 6.5 feet. I threw the pole down and I said, you gonna coach me now? And then he looked at me and he goes, you might be coachable. And while extremely humbling, the things that I realized was, and the questions I always get asked by my students is, why didn't you give up? Well, maybe because I'm not that smart, I don't know. But one of the tools, the reason I did not give up, was years before, I learned a simple trick. And my simple trick was a line. That's it. It's a line on the ground. It's a line on a soccer field. It's a line anywhere. It could be a physical line. It could be a line that you draw in your mind. So after every single bad vault, every time I hit the pavement, every time I hit the cracked bar, every time I split my shins, every time I fractured something, I broke something, it didn't matter. Every awful practice that I had, that I got absolutely nowhere, every single pair of tears that I cried, every time it was an awful practice, whatever, I would sit there, I'd look, I'd find a line, and I would look at the line, and I would tell myself, it's my choice when I get to step over it. I get to feel anything I want to right now. I can be pissed off, I can be mad, I can be angry, I can be disappointed, I can be frustrated, I can be whatever I want right now. I can be elated. That's great. But then when I step over this line, that's it. I have now chose to move forward. So whatever it was that I was feeling is in my past. Because now my mind is not focusing back here. My mind has intentionally chosen to use time and move forward. And I controlled it. No one told me, all right, well, that's fine, honey, but just keep going, keep going, keep going, you'll be fine. Because at some point, when people just tell you to do things and it's not on your own fruition and choice, what happens? We regress back to our old behaviors, right? Our old patterns, our old mindset. And if you don't control your mind and take action to control your mind, you're not clearing that height. You're going to go backwards because you're going to realize your pole doesn't even move forward half the time if you don't get the right spot. I did do that a few times. So that has been a tool that I have used and I've taught all of my students, but it has always been something because I focus on the main 4 points. It's okay to have your feelings and emotions. That's fine. You have to have a time frame. You have to give yourself a time frame for how long you can have to do that before you choose. You have to make a choice. You have to choose physically yourself to move forward. And when you do, you have to know that you took that choice. You've moved forward. You've physically done it. And now you're looking at progress and you're going, not looking at the back. You're not worried about the back now. You've learned from that. You're focusing forward. So I do have my PowerPoints and everything for you online. I will have them up while I'm not reading them. I figured many of us have all gone through PowerPoints, and I didn't think that anybody wants me just to stand and read. So, but I do have here some of the different things on here that you can pull up and look for yourself. But one of the areas that I want to go into is getting into vulnerability again. So, what is scary? What do you think of when I say vulnerability? What is vulnerability to you? What's it mean? Anyone can shout it out. Being open, right? Yeah? How many of you are parents? Yeah? Hi. Raise your hands high. Hi. Hi, hi, hi. Yeah. Good. Me too. I totally get it. Before I was a parent, I did not get it. So we know being vulnerable, right, comes into our life. Now, all of my parents, raise your hands. Hi again. Told you, get your blood flowing. You want to do 16 feet? Okay. So all of you guys that had your hands up, how many of you have had to manage work or things that have come up while you have kids or a kid? Super easy, right? Effortlessly, right? I know that there are no challenges, right? I'm sure. No. This is the part where how many of you have a significant other that's a part of that situation that helped create the child, right? Okay. How many of them had the same exact experience as you do? How many have to balance the same tasks you do? Right? How many of those partners have to be as vulnerable sometimes at work? And how many of us as moms and parents do we feel that we have to be overly compensating when we are in the workforce to show because we feel that vulnerability is weakness? How many of us have been trained that vulnerability is weakness? How many of us have had to make difficult decisions where you can't show up to that presentation, or you can't be somewhere you need to be, or you can't full mentally be present because all of a sudden your kid is sick, or they're hurt, or something has happened? Or you walked out the door and you had to negotiate with your 5-year-old as to why she cannot wear the princess dress that will not fit and buckle into her car seat. Just for the reference, that was today. So she did not get to be Belle. Anyways, so we understand vulnerability, right? One of the gaps that we have fallen short on is for all of those that do not have your hands up, they are looking to us. They see that we have it together, And we need to show that there is that vulnerability and express to those around us that we're working with, that we are naturally already being leaders and seen as role models to, that it is not easy. It's not easy at any step of it. It's not easy when you start your life into the career, when you're starting college, when you're starting high school. It's not easy as a parent. So why do we need to go and look like we have made it effortlessly? We're setting our generations up behind us for false expectations, right? How many of us have had to do our work at 2 a.m.? Yep. How many of us have emails on our phone? Yep. How many of us have Teams, Slack, communication, any type of anything that will go off and can go off, and you will respond at all points because you are making sure that others know that you are still present and active and working? Yeah. But is it realistic? How many of us are exhausted? Right? Yeah. How many of us, when we have pulled a 2 a.m. to answer those emails and write that proposal and create that brief and do that project, the next day, snap at somebody? Or by the end of the day, when you get asked 9,100,000 questions, that 9,101 question is the one that's like, you're like, I just don't know. I can't. I got nothing left, right? Yeah. Those are the amount of saying yes. It comes at a detriment. So you have to be vulnerable and you have to show, and you have to be comfortable with it to say, no, you know what? I can't get to that right now. Or my values right now, this is taking away from my priorities. And for those of us that have to make the decision, because I'm sure at least one of you are thinking that's great. However, we got to pay our bills. We don't want to get fired. We don't need to, we can't stand up to a boss. We can't stand up and change how we do things. This is just the structure of what it's always been, right? I just spent almost 7 years as a partner at a firm and stepped away and had to leave it. I had started my own business, nonprofit, everything. I'm doing it again. I'm adjusting and pivoting. But it was such unrealistic expectations, and part of that was on me. I created those 2 a.m.s that I did all nights. I created the constant, always working. Because when you do that, your work is always going to be there, and it doesn't end, right? There's just more and more and more. And if you do more and more and more, and you never set a boundary, and say, hey, I'm not doing that right now. I can't get to it. I can do that by 2 weeks. Would that be work? Does that work for you? Right? You have to set those boundaries. And when you don't, it becomes a landslide. And at some point, you have to stop and say, hey, is this what I need? And is this what is worth it? Or do I need to take a step back, readjust, and rethink about what I'm doing and how I'm doing it? Sometimes you do. So, one of my tools that I like to do, and it's called the 5 whys. So when I started to think of why doesn't this work? All of those parents, I'm sure you have never been asked why by your kids, have you? Exactly. Oh, and why again? And why again? And why? Well, why is the sky blue? Why can't I wear this? Why can't I have this for dinner, right? We get really good at those why questions, okay? So there is a technique that's very quick. We use it in improv. We use it in business. I use it in training and design facilitations. I use it in my business and businesses. And it's called 5 whys. It does not have to be 5. It could be 7. It could be 9. It could be 3. It doesn't matter. But I want you to challenge and channel your inner toddler, whether it be you have one or yourself as a toddler. And I want you to think about something that is currently not working in your life right now. And then ask yourself, why? And whatever that answer is, then you ask yourself, why? You can do it with another person. And as trivial and ridiculous as it sounds, and it is actually very funny, especially when you do it with someone else, because it does feel awkward at first, but when you start to ask why did you do those emails at 2 a.m.? Because I didn't have time. Why didn't you have time? Because I chose to mismanage my time in the evening. Why did you mismanage your time? Because it took time away from my family. Why did it take time away from your family? Time away from my family is something that I value and I didn't want to give it up. Why didn't you want to give it up? Because I absolutely love and cherish and I don't ever want to lose these memories and moments with my parents, my family. There's my value. My value is hidden in there. My value is the family, is the time, right? Could be money. It could be any. But getting to the root of the values and what your values are going to help give you direction in your career and as leaders and as women and as moms and as professionals and as mentors and as siblings or anyone, any conversations. And I promise you, it's a great tool to teach others. And it is really funny because you can literally just tell them, you've got to be a toddler. Why? Toddlers ask whys. They ask an average of 200 a day. Mine might be 2,000, but who's counting? And that might be like before lunch. But they do it to learn, right? That's really the goal. The goal of it is to learn. Why do we stop that when we're adults? Don't we want to learn? We want to undig. We want to figure out what those reasons are. Because when you start finding out what your values are, and you sit down and have an honest conversation with yourself or with the person or the people that you're mentoring or training or tutoring or whatever you're doing, and in the capacity that you're overseeing, you're going to realize it may not align. And if it does, great. If it doesn't, then what needs to get done? Where's the line? And where do you draw? And where do you step? And how far do you step? So, as I have built my businesses and gone through lots of failing, because I fail often, and this is one of the methods I've been trained on is not fearing failure. If anyone really wants a hardcore training on not fearing failure and a boot camp on it, I recommend take up pole vaulting. It's great. It's a good one for it. But as you build a business or career or yourself within your business, right? And as I have done mine, there's a lot of failures. And asking why, as each failure came down, was the reason I had to get to it. I had to dig down to figure out those whys and address those failures as they came about. Especially starting a nonprofit from scratch, writing everything and not knowing anything about any of like the business legalese or how expensive lawyers are. You guys make good money for emails. But I had to learn, right? I had to learn what that value and underlying reason is as to why something had failed, and had to be able to do it quickly. Because when you are earning your own money, you have to do it quick, right? Or you're not eating, and your kid is not really going to be super thrilled if you're not going to feed them. Probably the husbands either. At least mine wouldn't. So, one, I'm going to ask you guys to participate really quick with me. And I want you to think about the last time you needed a Band-Aid, which I actually have, because I have toddler. So, can somebody raise their hand and tell me when the last time you needed a Band-Aid? You don't need to tell me for what, you just got to tell me the location of where the Band-Aid went to quickly. For where? When did you use a Band-Aid last and where? Okay.
Yesterday on my toe. I had a blister.
On your toe?
On my shoe.
Okay, perfect. Okay, here's your Band-Aid for your toe. You're welcome. All right. So now, who has had, I need another person. When's the last time you used a Band-Aid for another location other than your toes? Who had to use one? Yes. Where?
My toddler hurt me.
Oh, good. Okay, so take that Band-Aid and put that on your toddler's toe. Okay, who else? Another location, please. Back here. Colonoscopy? Okay, this goes on the toe. There you go. All right. How about one more over here? Good. I need my steps in. All right. So, where's yours?
It wasn't mine.
Oh, well, sorry. Goes on the toe.
Oh, okay.
But there you go. Yes. So, obviously, this Band-Aid on the toe is the solution for all of you guys, right? No? Why not? I mean, they were all injuries. Injuries needed the Band-Aids, right? That was a solution. The solution was the Band-Aid to fix it. But why doesn't it work? We put it on our toe, right? Exactly. And knowing that with business, with podcasting, with students, with anything in your life, especially when you're starting out a new, like a nonprofit or a business in a community, always picture the Band-Aid. It's not the same. You may assume, because I assume, right? Injury, solution. We're saviors. We've got a solution. I got your Band-Aid right here. But if I'm not asking why, and I'm not asking where, and I'm not asking, and I'm paying attention to the extra details, it's going on the toe. Sorry about your elbow. Sorry about your knee. Sorry about your heel. It's going on the toe. So how successful will that business be? Probably not for long, right? Might make some quick money quickly, fast. Or at least all the people with the toes that need Band-Aids, you're served. Good. But I bet I can go around the entire room, and that's only 1% now, right? That needs it on a toe. So when you're thinking about starting and you're delivering your programs, your projects, or your services, right? Think about the Band-Aid and think about while that service might be the solution, it might be the solution to your community. It might be the solution to your network. It might be the solution to the entire world. You may hold the most magical, amazing solution. But if it's not what they need, where they need it, and it's not communicated in a way that they need, you may assume they need it. May not be. They may need to have it delivered a different way. So you need to think about your audience, your community, and the needs for them. And by asking why and asking some of these questions and getting to know the community and doing the needs assessments in a sense of verbal assessments, not written and not yes, you can ask ChatGPT or you can go on Google and you can find 1,000 community needs assessments, right? You can look at numbers and read numbers as many times as you want to, however you want to. But it's not going to tell you the same thing as it is when I am sitting next to you or I'm sitting in front of you and you're making eye contact with me and I'm paying attention. I'm shaking your hand. I'm thinking about where would you be putting that Band-Aid right now, right? Okay. So one of the ways to do this, and these are some pictures from my office and some actual facilitations and projects that I've done. One of the tools that we like to use is what, so what, now what, okay? So you've identified and you've started to talk to your community and you've figured out, okay, they don't all need Band-Aids on their toes. What, so what, and now what? What is the problem? What is failing? What occurred? Or what happened? Any of you guys that are educators or teachers and had to learn pedagogy and theory, this is all Kohlberg theory of how to lead reflection. It comes from generations of background and history on how to do this and how the brain works. But I use this in every meeting. Every time we have a debrief, I call them a postmortem. My husband is a cop, so it's probably not the best use of words, but anyways, that's what we call them. And when my teams do this, we list out everything, and we list them out on Post-its. What occurred? What are the actions? What worked well? What didn't work? So what? So what happened as to why it didn't work? So what occurs? So what are my barriers? So what are my boundaries? Now what? Now what are we going to do? What are the actions we need to take to be able to overcome those? And it makes it manageable, and it makes it so that you can rapidly, when you fail first, you learn really quickly, and you can do this within 20 minutes and be able to move on and get a new solution, adapt, pivot, and grow, deliver, connect, whatever it is in your world that you are doing, right? Your service. So you'll see up here, this is actually my day 2 of working at a firm, and that was actually a challenge I came into and was told by the partners that they have been in 4 years of a deadlock of trying to figure out how to grow a program, but they have done nothing but argue about the agenda. 4 years. 4. It's a long time, right? 4. So I look and I listen to both. You listen to all the sides, and then I'm like, okay, you're saying the same thing. So you get people up, you get them moving, you get them with Post-its, you tell them that you put your ideas as fast as you can, 1 idea per Post-it. Put them up. This is an actual activity, it's called a mind map. I have resources and a way to teach you that's on my site that you can download yourself at the end. But that is one strategy we used. And within 20 minutes, they were not only able to realize that they both were saying the exact same thing, that they had totally the same goals in mind and values in mind in how to grow the program, and then it unlocked all their doors on how to grow the program and scale it and define what the parameters of it was. Still currently running and is in 3 states now. So instead of wasting 4 more years, get uncomfortable, be vulnerable, ask the 5 whys, and use your tools. One of the biggest tools that we like to ask and that I use, I say that everything can be solved by 3 letters. It's called HMW. And it is something that comes from a global innovation design training firm and technique through facilitation that I had undergone several years ago and have been delivering for nationally like 15 years. HMW, how might we? This is how we unlock teams. This is how I work with higher ed. And when I sit in a room, and I call it the alphabet soup table, everybody's got like credentials and things, and they all have like entitlement for their credentials, right? It's like the provost won't talk over the, I don't know, faculty or like whatever. And people fear in hierarchy that their manager or they're not going to speak up because so-and-so. How implies that there is a problem. There is something not working, right? There's something unanswered, there's something not working. Might implies that there could be more solutions than one, meaning no one sitting at that current table has the answer. And we implies you must have multiple people to find and solve and work through your problem and get to that solution, or you're not going to get it. Because if you held the answer, or any one of them held the answer already, you wouldn't be sitting there, right? Let's face it. So, HMW, anytime we have a problem or a challenge at work or in our life, even at home, I do this with our toddler. She'll say, this isn't working. I'm like, how might we? So you're phrasing a negative, you're flipping that negative into a positive. How might we look at this and figure out what component is working and make it complete, or make it work, or make it deliver what we're looking for? How might we look at our community and identify what are the true needs that they have, as opposed to we can't figure out, our community just doesn't want to use our programs. Okay? How might we address childcare issues in a light that gives solutions to our community so that they can have outreach? So, how might we? That's how I have used to be able to, that's tools I have used to be able to dream big and reach my goals. And with that, one of the tools also is yes and. Because remember going back to that, how might, the M, might, meaning multiple. They could be a lot of solutions. When you get into a room of people and you have people that are that can't be done, it's always been done, it's been done the same way, this isn't going to work. We've done it the same way, this way all the time. Why should we change? Nope, I don't like your idea. I'm not going to do this, right? Or the people that's just not paying any attention. They don't want to hear it. They've shut down. They've had 4 years of arguing. They have debated these issues until they're blue in their face. They are done. They're fed up. They are not going to work on it. Or Why should I listen to you? I'm your supervisor. Hopefully that's not the case, but a lot of times we have found ourselves in that situation, right? So you can take 3 minutes and do yes and. And this is something that I try to challenge myself throughout my day as well. When I start to say no, which as parents we all know how well that goes with a 5-year-old, say yes and. Just tell them, we're going to warm up our minds really quick and we're going to say yes and. I am planning a party for my mother. Yes and. As opposed to no but. Yes and is an open mindset versus and a growth mindset versus a closed mindset of no but. No but, this is how we have always done it. We shouldn't change. Why should we change? No but, we don't have the resources to change. Yes and. Yes and is the way that you open up your mind and you get people to be able to brainstorm and you get the positivity and you lay, literally the whole playing field becomes flat. Everybody becomes equal. And it can be pretty funny. So you can dialogue it with other people and try it. I recommend practicing it and doing it multiple times because it is ridiculous at times and it does seem silly, but it does work. Eventually,
Kayla, I have the unfortunate
am I done?
job of,
All right.
yes, I'm so sorry.
That is okay.
I could listen to you talk all day. You obviously
Yes,
have
and.
amazing expertise in all of
Thank you.
this. So let's give Kayla a round of applause.
Yeah. Oh, it's okay.
I hate this job. But Kayla, thank you so much for being here today. Thank you to the sponsors of our room, Verizon. Thank you all for listening. There are some questions on the app, so
Yep.
if you would take a moment of your time and answer those for us, we would appreciate it. Thank you again.
Thank you.